Hello, this is Robert Yule again for the ninth in our series on being a good steward of God's kingdom as assigned to mankind in Genesis 1:26. So today we're going to be talking about how to help others and how that can be a good way of bringing sustainability to our environment. But before we do that, I'd like to review some things from the previous week. So one of the best ways and greenest energies is the energy you don't use. And so I'm going to give an example of that, and it oddly enough is the product we didn't make. If you recall, in session three, I talked about this glass that we were purchasing and processing, and it comes in large sheets. We had a customer that came and said they wanted us to have the coating on it be more durable, more resistant. Well, we know how to do that. You bake the coating and it makes it more durable and more resistant to wear and tear. So someone suggested we send these large sheets of glass to what looks like a giant toaster oven. So you can continuously feed the sheets of glass in, heat them up to the baking temperature, and then have them come out the other end. However, on the team of people working on that was one of my energy team members. And so they asked a very important question. How are we going to cool the glass when it comes out of the oven? And the response was, well, we'll just let it cool into the air of the room. And he says, do you realize how much energy that's going to take? It's going to take 2 to 3 times the energy that we put into heating the glass to get that waste heat out of the building. That's a lot of air conditioning that we have to put into this building. So we're not going to be buying just this giant toaster oven, but we're also going to have to buy a bunch of air conditioning to keep the room cool and to cool the glass back down. Well, that was a non-starter. That was very expensive. So we didn't make that product. As we talked about before, you start releasing creativity. And we had another solution that we had been experimenting with. We tested it and it worked. And so instead of baking it, we had a different coating that they placed on it. And that was a whole new product. And so we got a cheaper, better, faster solution and something else that we could sell. Last week, when I was reviewing the different energy types, I didn't actually talk on wind and hydropower, so I briefly mentioned those just to be complete. Wind power, well, problem is it only runs when the wind blows. The biggest problem is, though, is it kills birds. The birds can't see the blades coming. Those blade tips are going 70, 80 miles an hour, and they just don't have a chance. Also, they're not necessarily all that inexpensive. They're expensive to install, they're expensive to operate, and they're extremely expensive to get rid of when they reach end of life. People also complain about the visual and the sound pollution issues. I was so upset about the bird kill, I'd even recommended a solution to that problem. Birds will divert if you flash a light in their eyes. And so my company had the ability to develop a technology that could sense the birds coming in a flight path that would go through the windmill and then flash a low-powered laser beam in their eyes so that they would not fly through the blades. Conceptually, it should work. We never went beyond discussions on it, but I always kind of wish we had because it'd be nice to not kill birds with our with our wind power. And the last one is hydropower. It sounds wonderful. It causes significant damage to the ecosystem. Now, this one here is actually what is one of the better built hydro dams that I could find a picture of. It doesn't have a huge flooded area behind it. It's on a river that was flowing anyways. And so it looks like that had a pretty small impact, but it is relatively expensive energy. The main reason people build dams and then do hydro is for the water storage and the flood control. So this is the cleanest of all the energy. It's the energy I help other people not to use. When I was doing carbon reporting for my company, this was one of the things we reported on. We reported on how much energy our products saved our customers. And the carbon footprint associated with that was way beyond anything that we ourselves as a company were emitting. If everybody was helping each other save energy, we would do a lot to be better stewards of this world God has given us. What does that look like? Well, the obvious one is let's design and make products that use less energy. Next, we can develop techniques and technologies that solve problems remotely and from distance so that you don't have to travel to it. This is all about what we call truck rolls. How many times do we have to roll a truck to send a technician somewhere to fix something? If we can minimize the number of truck rolls in an industry, there's a lot of energy and other wasteful activities being saved. And of course, we all have some experience, thanks to COVID, of what it's like to work from home. All of that commute cost and travel and time is gone. It can be, if well managed, truly a better, cheaper, faster way of getting things accomplished. Many companies have continued to allow work from home, usually in some form of hybrid thing where you need to be in the office a couple days a week for collaboration, team building, innovation. But if you don't need to be here, stay home and get your job done there. I hope you've enjoyed these. Next week, I will share an actual case study of one of these examples with you. I look forward to seeing you next week for how to be a better steward of God's kingdom.